Welcome to Raw Conscious Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Tammy Cheney. Today's guest is an extremely personally close soul sister to me. And I met her probably a couple years now. It might even be 3 years now. I don't pay attention to time like that, but she has just been such an amazing human to have in my life. And I'm so thankful and grateful she's on here tonight. Her name is Vanessa Vega. And I am going to have her come on and give her bio because she knows herself better than anybody else can know herself. And she presents it perfectly. So Vanessa, welcome.
Hello, hi. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Yes,
The love is mutual, you know that. So,
yes.
so happy to be in your new channel and having this conversation tonight. And it's so important.
Yes.
So blessed to be here. And like you said, my name is Vanessa Vega for your audience, and
Mhm.
I've been in this spiritual journey now this activated spiritual journey, because we're always on a spiritual journey, whether aware or not. So I'm aware of it now since 2017, where I had this STE. That's where everything started. But other than that, I can say that I am a two-time near-death experiencer also. But it wasn't from the near-death experiences that oh my God, all the Pandora box got opened. And all the spiritual knowledge, let's say, that I now have uh, was not because of my NDEs. So we can say that in my case, I call it like like reverse mortgage.
All right.
So my personal, for whatever reason, which I know now, but was in the reverse that happens for other people. Very strangely, right? But that's the way it was meant for me, and for the purpose that I was brought into this this identity that I carry now, and my soul purpose. No, so basically that's the best way I can explain it, because otherwise, no one would understand. No one
Yes,
would understand.
that's
But yes,
perfect. Yes, that is perfect.
so where do you want me to
So go
start?
go ahead and just briefly talk about your two near-death experiences that you had. I think one was at 18 months or something like that. Yes, just briefly go into that and then jump right into your spiritually transformative experience, because it just every time you tell it, it blows my mind. So I want everybody else to be able to experience what you experience. So you got the floor.
Well, yes, like you said, I had my first near death experience at age when I was 18 months old. And again, I know about the event happening, but I didn't have the spiritual knowledge about it until I didn't have this 2017 experience. Okay. Uh, so basically, I choked when my mother was changing me. Back in those days, we didn't have Pampers. We have cloth diapers. That's what they used. and those cloth diapers, they used to clamp them with like a metal clamp, much like what we ladies use for the hair, like a hairpin or something like, but to a smaller scale, a metal aluminum clamp that would clamp the the cloth together, one side with the other one. And so back in those days, also we didn't have the cellular phone, and my mother was changing me, and the phone rang, and she left me there with the clamps beside me, not thinking, right? She went to pick up the phone, which was not where I physically was. So she went to pick up the phone, and while she was over there doing her thing, I took one clamp and swallowed the clamp. And so when she came back, I was already purple. And so she was obviously, like any mother would, she started screaming. She grabbed me by my ankles, and I was, by my ankles, and started shaking me as much as and screaming with me like that. Which now we didn't, back those days also, we didn't have the knowledge about, shaken baby syndrome, or that you don't shake babies. But she was shaking me very hard because she wanted me to help me expose the clamp, and she didn't know what to do. She was hysterical. So they got me in the whole ordeal. They got me into the car and drove to the hospital. But truth was that I had already crossed over. And at some point in the hospital, and while I was being taken down there, I came back. So that's all the knowledge that I have about the event. But this was very significant for me because I didn't know, again, was not aware that by me crossing over as a baby to the other side, already that put me in contact with that spiritual side. And so for most part of my life, I had, let's say, abilities which I didn't think they were ability. Back at those days, I didn't see them like abilities. I just thought that everybody was like that. I used to astral travel. I would see my soul floating right out of my body, and I would have this out of body while I was sleeping. Okay, so I saw my soul traveling like to other dimensions and also to the earth dimension, and I would see things that my consciousness back at those days, those were very vivid dreams, very vivid experiences, also of past life experiences, and very intense. Okay, that child, I was terrified at night, but I would not dare even move in my bed. I wouldn't dare even move because I thought they were gonna come. Whatever experience I was having, which was traumatic for me, I would thought that these people were gonna come and kill me, or they were persecuting me because I had dreams about past life in the medieval times. I had type of things which they're very bloody, very, very, and for a child that age, so small, it can be very traumatic. Okay, so yes, I would think that they were gonna come and kill me. They were looking for me, and because I lived them so vividly, I wouldn't dare even move, right? So my parents never knew that I was having these experiences. I never said anything. I just thought that that's how people used to dream, and that
Mhm.
people would get out of the body and have. I just thought that was normal. Eh, Never told or explained. So I went through all my childhood like that, and also having other experiences, like for example, that I would know something would happen, and I would dream. I would have vivid dreams of something happening, and whatever I dreamt would happen, would really happen, and next day would happen. So, but again, I was like, oh wow, I dreamt that happened, that happened. And usually it was things that had to do with death, okay?
Mhm.
Normally were things that had to do with death. Yeah. So,
So you would dream like somebody in the future gonna pass
would
away, and then they would pass away.
like for example, I had one of those events which was very. I used to live in a condominium. We used to live in a condominium in the 19th floor, in the penthouse of the last floor up there, and we had the lady that lived right underneath us in apartment 1801. She was a good friend of my mother, and she committed suicide.
Mm.
And that night, before she committed suicide, she threw herself from the 18th floor. Okay, so imagine. Uh, I dreamt that somebody, I didn't know who, I knew it was a woman.
Mhm.
I saw somebody getting out of the window, through the windows. The windows were those guillotine, uh, guillotine type of window, right? The ones you
Mhm.
slip up like that. So I saw that person uh, going over, throwing herself over the window, and I saw her falling down, but I couldn't perceive who this person was.
Mhm.
And right the next day, this person she committed suicide. She threw herself through the window of the kitchen, of the kitchen window.
And you were
And
just a little girl. How old were you
yeah,
when you?
when that happened, I had like about, I would say I was already like a teenager.
Mhm.
Like perhaps I was in my 13th, 14th year
Mhm.
of age already. Eh, and that came out in the newspapers, and it was a really big ordeal because her husband was a prominent doctor here, and back in those days, the press would be very, very sensationalist, and very, and so they put it in the first, in the papers, everything. It was very, but when I came to the house the next day, right when this happened, after school, that I came back, I immediately noticed the apartment didn't look like there were cigarettes. My father never smoked. And so when I saw that, I said, who was here smoking? Because I arrived in the house and my parents were not there. They used to take us, a bus used to take us to after school to our house.
Mhm.
And so I saw that, and I was like, it felt different, right? But when my parents arrived after, that's where I knew. And when they told me what had happened, and I knew what had happened,
Mhm.
eh, I immediately said, "Oh my God, I dreamt that. I did say it." But I guess because all the intensity of the event, because the police came to our house, that's why the cigarettes were there. A lot of people came
Mhm.
because they treated they needed to do the investigation to see
Mhm.
if it really was you know, a suicide so they used our house was used as the meeting place for all the police,
Oh,
and
okay.
that's why they had left those cigarettes there. So, but yes, things like that, and things like that would happen. Things that I knew, and I didn't know how I knew them, right?
Mhm.
So I wasn't aware, and nobody spoke to me back in those days about
Mhm.
this
So it
type of
seemed
experience.
normal to you, right? You just thought
Yeah,
everybody experienced that and it was just
I
normal.
just,
Yeah.
yeah, and ignore them when they happen. I would, like, when that happened, I remember myself saying, "Oh," and I told my mother, "Oh, I had dreamt that. I dreamt that," and I was surprised, but nobody paid attention, like.
Mhm.
So I discarded it. I just stayed silent and discarded it.
Mhm.
And that's it. And nothing more to it, right? But yes,
So,
fast forward.
right, I was going to say, how old were you when you had the second NDE?
Yeah, fast forwarding then to my second NDE, which was at age 16.
Okay.
And that didn't happen here. I live in Puerto Rico, as you know. But that happened in Dominican Republic. We were traveling there, visiting some friends, and we were having a family outing with them over in a beautiful river, big river. Uh, just a day outing with them, music and everything, and the two families were sharing, and we were swimming in the river, and we started to they have also they had kids like our age, okay? So they had three, we were three. I even was with back then with my first let's say boyfriend, high school boyfriend. My father had taken him with us, and we were in the river, swimming upstream and going uh, climbing the rocks, like to go upward, up river and up the waterfalls, okay? Because
Mhm.
every now and then you would swim, and then you would have a small a waterfall, and so we went up top on top of the waterfall and then we would swim again to the other waterfall, and that we were going upstream, up and up. And by the fourth time going up, uh, I went up and I stood on top of the rocks when I got up, and I started speaking, screaming to them that were down there, come on, man, look. I started talking, but I gave my back was towards the rest of the river, right? And I was looking down, and a really strong river current came and hit me. And so I fell down the rocks and into the river, and the river current was really, really strong. So I would, although I knew how to swim, right? I was tumbling all over, and I couldn't compose my body. I was trying to, but the river current was pushing me and was making me tumble at the same time. I was afraid because uh, this river had a lot of debris, trees and branches on the border. So I was scared that I would be I would it would poke me my eyes or my body, right? I would get a branch. So I was trying to think of a lot of things while trying to compose my body, and at some time of tumbling so much and drinking water also, uh, I just gave up. That's the best thing I can say.
Gave up
And
because of exhaustion, probably.
yes, I was trying so much,
Hmm.
and I couldn't fight the push of the river. I couldn't. I just
Hmm.
and
And
so
you fell from the top of one of the waterfalls down.
yeah, down,
Wow.
down,
Hmm.
correct. I got scraped right by the rocks. Also, I
Hmm.
had scraped my body, but uh, so for a few seconds there, like I told you, like everything stopped, right? Uh, and now I find myself that I am seeing, like, those, I try to say that it was like those, there used to be a
Like a Polaroid
viewfinder.
camera.
A viewfinder, it's a
Oh, a
toy
viewfinder.
that is a very old toy that
Oh, yes,
we
and you
use,
can click the pictures through. Yes.
like, right?
Hmm.
Well, just like it is akin to that. I would see my whole life going by through those flashes very fast. And I was aware that it was my life going like a live review, but very fast. Okay. And and when I came back to my consciousness, obviously they had helped me out of the river, and I had obviously the scrapes and the thing, but again, I didn't have the consciousness to describe what what had just happened. So I didn't know. I was confused, and thinking, wow, that was strange. What was that I just lived, right? But I didn't tell again. I I did not say anything. I did not ask.
Did
Um,
you not say anything because you thought that
it's
it's a human experience and everybody at some time and point in their life could experience and it's just normal?
I just, yeah, I guess I thought I just like said, what that was strange. Like I discarded it very uh, naively.
Mm,
That's what I was
okay.
I was very naive. All my life, I was a very naive person, okay?
Hmm.
As a child, more. So I discarded it, like I did think about it and I still remember it, right? But since I didn't have the words to describe or to understand, you don't have the consciousness. So I said, well, that was strange. And that's it. I left
Right.
it there. I never told, I never explained. No one, look, I lived this, I experienced this. What do you think it is? So I did not. I did not. I just kept on life like if nothing. And so that was the second time, right? But again, I didn't have the consciousness because back in those days, no one talked about near death experiences or nothing like that. So all of my life, I went through life not knowing that I had that. Eh, and so I went through life like we all do, right? Unconsciously living until my 51st year of age. Eh, that I have then this ST, spiritually transformative experience, okay? Which definitely was a near death experience. But if to better put it into perspective for your viewers, right? And for people that perhaps are watching this video on my channel when I post it also, but basically it is what I call like a grounded, if that I can, if I can explain that, explain it in that way, a grounded type of NDE. If we can call that an NDE is a grounded thing, experience to have, okay?
That's
But in
actually a
my case,
perfect definition. Yeah, that's a perfect definition. A grounded
yeah,
near-death
NDE.
experience. Yes.
That's why I say that everything for me, and I have never heard of someone, I would love to hear and love to meet someone that has had these same experiences that I have, because definitely this grounded way of experiencing ND, because still today, 9 years later, I have not, I have, in all the NDs that I have studied, read about, watched, I have not found one that, no experience like this one, honestly. But that's how it happened for me. So that day, eh, let me give some perspective about the type of person I was. Okay, I was what an overachiever. Okay, what we would call an overachiever, and all my life I was very competitive. I would set myself to very high standards because my parents were like that. They expected a lot from us, okay? So I learned to put those expectations over me also, and so which also I didn't have a good relationship with my mother, okay? My mother was a very controlling, narcissistic woman whom I love dearly, okay? Not that I am blaming her. That's the life that she needed to live, okay? And me too, me also. I recognize that now. I understand it, but that back then I was very unawakened to that truth, okay? And so I went through that with a lot of trauma, okay? Childhood trauma. I carried a lot of childhood trauma, and it was all of my life. I used to put those high standards and I used to achieve everything I set myself up to. But, and I would achieve. But once I would achieve, I felt like it wasn't enough. It was never enough for me. So one of those, going back now, and now that I'm aware, right? One of those beliefs that my trauma had set upon my subconscious mind was that I wasn't good enough. Okay, so I never was satisfied with those achievements, although I used to achieve a lot of things. Okay, but once I got there, again, I felt empty, and not realizing that that was childhood trauma, right? And something that I needed to do some shadow work about myself. So, long story short, in my life had these cycles of feeling like this had repeated. I had married 3 times, divorced already 3 times, when I had this STE. And I was going through a lot of turmoil, okay? So everything in my life had come to a point where, although I would start up again and rebuild and achieve whatever it was that I set myself up to, businesses, because I am an entrepreneur. I had been an entrepreneur most of my life. So this day, as much as I wanted to, I just had touched rock bottom totally. All my life, every aspect of my life, financially, I am a single mother of 2. And so my motherhood, my every single aspect of my life touched rock bottom, came together this day. And I was feeling really, really awful, really emotional, really down, really desperate, because I had an upcoming court viewing that I was very anxious about. And so all this came together, and I was so confused and frustrated also at the same time, because I thought all my life I had wanted to be a good person and did things from my good intentions, and with all the good intentions of being a good person in life. And I didn't know what I had done in my life to find myself at this point, right, of my life, that everything was being tested. And I couldn't understand where I had turned incorrectly in life, as much as I tried to, look. And so I usually prayed. I was brought up all my life, also up to my 12th grade. I had studied in American schools here in Puerto Rico, Christian schools. Okay, so all my teachers were missionaries, American missionaries. And so I was brought up also with those beliefs, which you were speaking about before we entered here, about Jesus. Well, I always, since very little, very, very little, had this connection. I always felt this
Mm-hmm.
connection with Jesus, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would speak to him when I found myself tormented or frustrated with what I was living as a child with my mother specifically. I would have this corner where I would go to, and I would pray there and speak to him. Okay, so but I always something that I always recall and say, because it was the truth. Uh, on Holy Week, I would, back in those days, they would give the back-to-back movies about Jesus and Jesus's life and the crucifixion and all this. And I would stay the whole week there, because we were out of school. They would leave us out of school, right? And I would watch this all, all back to back, with nonstop, all the movies, from morning until night. And I remember that I felt, the whole time I was crying deeply, and I felt the grief, because I felt the grief. It was like if I felt the grief of the world, and I just couldn't understand, right? Back in those days, I would try to think and understand, put myself back in those days, right? Like if I was there, and how could a person like this had that was so good, right? Because that's what they had. That was so a good person had endured this kind of demise and all the what he went through, right? So and I would feel all that pain and grief and cry. I just felt so guilty also
Me too.
because
Me too. Me too. I felt it all. I felt everything. Hmm.
felt a lot of guilt because here I was, all my life I was taught that this man, right, had died because of me and for me. And so I had carried a lot of guilt because of that. I had built a lot eh, because I felt like I had killed him. I was the one that had killed him, okay? So yeah, um, that I understand now, but back then I lived that like, and it was year after year after year. That's how I felt. So fast forwarding to this event, I was in, I was getting ready, to go to bed right here where we're speaking. I like to do my videos here, my interviews here, right on top where I had that same experience. So the computer is right on top of where I was and where I had that experience. I decided to pray because I used to pray. Okay, I was so emotionally uh, high, let's say, that I decided to pray. But somehow that day, something came into me that I would pray like in a different way because it was like a conversation, right? Like if I was talking to someone and I was expressing the way I was feeling, and I was saying like, I am so confused. I feel frustrated. I am lost. I remember saying that I had lost all, excuse me, all faith in myself because I felt that every decision I made at that time took me on the wrong direction, ended up wrong or bad in some way. So I was afraid to make any more decisions for myself, and I didn't trust myself making decisions. So I had lost all my faith, and I was crying. Obviously, I was crying, and I was expressing my emotions. Okay, uh, and at some point of that conversation, I just said, and I felt it saying it. I honestly was saying it because I felt it in every cell of my body. I said, and I surrender. I surrender. I don't want to control anything because up to this time, I knew something was wrong with me. I was trying to control every outcome, right, in my life. And so I said the word. I said the word. And what at the same moment I said the words right there, I felt like if 1,100 bolt of energy or yeah, struck me right there. Uh, and so my body jumped from the strike of energy, jumped, and at this was happening everything at the same time. So when I felt that energy enter my body, and strike me right there. I heard this male voice as we're speaking right now, a very authoritative but loving and caring voice at the same time, told me, Vanessa, throw yourself to the ground. I want to speak to you. And so I jumped, my body, as I said, no processing. There was no time to think. I just knew instantaneously who this was. It was a knowing. I didn't even ask. No thought process, no nothing. I just knew who this was. And so I threw myself to the ground here where the computer is, my hands, my knees touching the ground, and I wouldn't there, right? My head was like in reverence, right? But all
So were you in a crawl? I'm sorry. Were you in a
yes,
crawl? You were crawling position,
yes,
or were you flat down?
no, I was crawling. My knees
Okay.
and
Hmm.
my palms were
Hmm.
touching the ground. Yeah, I was crawling. Eh, and so in looking down, but at the same time, was feeling all this 100,000 volt. My body was vibrating, right? It was trembling. I was hyperventilating. I couldn't breathe. Um, it hurt me. I felt pain in my body, pain, because I was feeling like they were they were I was being my organs were being sucked out of my, that's how it felt. And I just but at the same time, as strange as it sounds, I liked it. I felt pain, but at the same time, I liked it. I didn't want it to stop, and I was sobbing. My I couldn't stop crying, right? And sobbing, literally sobbing and hyperventilating. And while all this was happening, I was having this knowing, or this telepathic conversation, right? Where he was speaking to me and telling me what was going on with me, okay? Specifically, giving me instructions of how I had managed for the most part, right? So I was becoming very aware of what I had done wrong, and how I had managed my emotions in a wrong way. At the same time, right, I became very aware about my consciousness cracked open about the knowledge of how energy was our light energy, specifically light energy, okay? Because there's a lot of types of energy, but light energy is our natural, purest, divine, raw material, okay? And this is the very essence and fabric of the whole creation, and of everything, of everything that exists, okay? So this was the fabric of everything that exists, and how it was communicating through me, right? And with me, through energy, okay? And I became very aware of, I call it like deconstruction, a deconstruction. So I went from a form being to a formless being, and I was very aware that life, as we know it, right? As we know, was not where life actually started. So life does not start in our biology; it starts in our energy field, which is a living light. and that is the source of everything. And so I knew that this was where life starts, truly, and from a formless, not from a form.
Mhm.
So biology was not the place. So all this knowledge about energy and quantum physics, science, and how that has an order to it, specific order, expansive order to it, and how it comes to be in a physical form, and how everything was connected in the universe, and how all that connection and that energy, vibration, and frequency were at the foundation of all creation, right? And that specifically vibrational frequency translated in the grounded aspect of our biology through our energy in motion, emotions.
Mhm. So
And
you were
that
getting flooded with all this information, just download after download in a down on your
down
hands and knees, sobbing with spit and snot and tears, and all these downloads are dropping down in you.
exactly. And I was doing like it's in my head. I would everything I was being told. I said yes, 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 yes with the head. Eh, and and so I became very aware of the importance of our emotions. And also I was told, right, Vanessa, and if we can never be separated because you are made, I make you up. This is what I was being told also. I make you up. You are made, I'm a material that makes everything, all creation. So you are made of me, and you are part of me, and I am a part of you. We can never be separated. So this and up to this was very important for me, because up to this moment I had always been taught that Jesus and God and all this, we were all separate beings, right? God was
Mhm.
something that was separate from me and was unreachable. I always thought that I never could ever, right? That's why I was in this like reverent position, I guess, and I didn't even dare to open my eyes. I felt very minuscule, extremely minuscule. But at the same time, I felt so privileged and so touched, because I knew that I could see, and I was very aware that I was in a very low vibration, and God, or call it whatever you want to call it, source, divine, had lowered himself to meet me where I was. Okay, so this was very extremely, I felt so, oh my God, the words are not even, because I felt so cared for, and I
That
could understand.
unconditional love. You
Yes,
embodied it. You embodied that unconditional love. Yes.
well, I became one with that level of consciousness. But all the while I was embodied. I never left my body to have this experience. So it was extremely powerful. And I guess that's why, because the brain is not prepared and your body is not prepared to handle this amount of energy. When we have a near death experience as we know it in the usual, right? uh, we cross, literally, we leave, the soul leaves the body, and the soul is always in its energetic form. But here I was, fully embodied, with my soul intact, inside my body, having this experience. And for my body, it was so immensely intense that I cannot even put into words, because if it is strong to merge with this energy while being a soul, I cannot even express how strong it is to have an experience like this while embodied. But that's how it came for me, because I needed to bring this groundedness to spirituality, because that's for me to understand precisely that it was through energy and through vibrational frequency, the connection, the link, the divine link that we always have, and that our emotions, which equate to our vibrational frequency, are the only common grounds between the spiritual and the physical. And so, how significant to be aware of our vibrational frequency and what we carry emotionally, we hoard emotionally during our life. It was so important to pay attention to that and to cleanse our body. And that's what he was doing for me. That was the pain that I was feeling, because I had hoarded so much low vibrational frequency up to this point. I had a lot of resentment, a lot of all these emotions that were flooding me. And he told me, I need you to be clean, right? And pristine, so that your vibration, because when you are low, you impact my vibration. And I need you to be high in your vibration, so that you can contribute. Your contribution to me is a high one, right? So I became very aware and of the responsibility also that he was giving me, right? Of doing the inner work and purging, and that I needed to become very self-aware, which I already was with the whole experience of what I had been carrying within. And so at some point of this experience, which already was a huge one, because it lasted 2 hours. That whole experience lasted 2 hours. I tried to open my eyes just a little bit, okay? Just a little bit, to through all the tears that were coming down. And when I opened my eyes, my hands, I could see my hands, because I was like that, right? So I could see my hands were not touching the ground.
So
So
you
I
were
was left.
hovering up off the ground in the kneeling position. Your hands, your
Correct.
legs, your whole body was just hovering above the floor,
Yes, I was what's called levitating.
levitating.
I was levitating.
Wow. Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And when I saw that, right, when I became aware of that, I started crying even harder, because I couldn't comprehend, my mind couldn't comprehend what I was living. It is so surreal, right? Again, when you are in your soul state, in your energetic pure state, these things, although they're processed, they're processed. I would say that they are processed in a more easier way, and they are very impactful, because all the near-death experiences that we hear about, they're very significant and but having an experience like this while embodied, obviously, is something that, because the mind, again, your brain cannot process, it's information that you're not prepared to comprehend. And so, um, but it was undeniable. And that's why I say that that day I did die,
Mm-hmm.
because the person that I was, I could never, ever in my life,
You
even
are the
as,
best.
as much as I could try to go, I could never be again, never. So Vanessa did die that day of March, back in March 2017. And the new person that I was gonna be from there on, definitely was huge, huge, huge transformation. Uh, and so, uh, obviously, immediately after I came out of this profound experience, I immediately could see that my sensory and my sensibilities that I had most probably had, that I now know I had since a child, right? Became very, a lot of things started to happen. Okay, this sprung because now I had been in contact with that side in such a way, such a profound way, that uh, my psychic senses uh, heightened to a level extremely high, and I immediately started to have uh, all the clairs, okay, but mainly clairaudience, clairsentient, claircognizant. I knew things and I didn't know how I knew them, that I had never studied about, because I've never been quantum physics. Okay, it's not. I used to hate math in school, and now knowing about all these things and energy and just understanding, having knowledge, medical information that I had never been exposed to before in my life, just knowing, right? Uh, and just, and the process didn't end there, because then from there on I would go to sleep, and through my dream time I would get more uploads and more information every single day. So my consciousness kept growing, augmenting. And just, I knew I was being guided. I started to have these divine conversations continually. I would go like, let's say, I would be woken up 333 in the morning, all this, and I was being like given all this information that I would receive, plus during my sleep time, uh, and I was being like, what I call, I was thrown into a spiritual boot camp, because up to this time, this age, I had never heard about spiritual awakening. I didn't know what that word was. Okay, so I was being guided, and they would tell me, look it in your computer, what, search for it, what spiritual awakening means. And then I would search, and I would know, right? And I started to see numbers and all these number sequences, and through the numbers I started to understand a language that I had never been exposed to before, and get decoded messages. I would decode messages that I would know through numbers. And so these conversations, these divine conversations, were going on with me, and just knowledge about every single topic you can imagine. I felt like I was thrown into the internet, and all the possible knowledge of the internet was within me. That's the best way I can explain it, right?
So now that's still happening to you to this day.
Yeah, yeah, but it has the intensity of those days not in that same way. It does happen
Mhm,
now. It
mhm.
has, it has. Let's say, I still have the abilities, right? But it's like everything. The spiritual process is a process that you are the driver. In that moment, I was so in awe of what I was living because I felt like I was inside a magical, like a Disney movie, very extremely surreal because every day was so I was in awe and I wanted to learn more. I was very anxious to learn more, to discover more, and I would go into these trances like, how do I know this? How can I know this? Because I've never studied this before in my life and I've never been exposed to this information, but I know it. And so I would corroborate continuously everything to see if, and that would um bring more curiosity, more curiosity. So the intensity of the process has gone down, okay? And once in a while now, yes, I get a download. If I have a question about something, I would get the answer that I'm looking for. But it has gone into a level where I can manage, right? Uh, the intensity of those days. I am now leveled up to it because I had to work myself up to and open as I did to this process because definitely it was for years, it was intense for years. Now it's level. That's how I can. Now it's more level.
So
Uh,
now this experience led you to write a book, correct?
yes,
Mhm.
during these 9 years, right, and all through this process, fast forwarding to 2019. This happened in 2018, the year after I was being spiritually taught and all this. I developed cancer, ovarian cancer, but this was part of my preparation. Okay, uh, and and I know it. I just know it, and so. I, in the first experience, had been spontaneously, that was another thing that I noticed. I was spontaneously healed because up to that day, I used to drink antidepressants and like clonopin for anxiety. And I would drink Ambien for sleep. So I was very emotionally very uh, sick. So I would drink all these things, and I was spontaneously healed when he was healing me and getting all this low vibration out of me. I immediately, when I came out of the experience, I knew I had been healed from all this. And
Mhm.
so I went to the bathroom. After this, I went to the bathroom and had a cold a shower, but I threw all my pills
Mhm.
and
Wow,
never again,
that's
never
powerful.
again, never again. And I just knew I had been healed, spontaneously healed from all that, just by cleansing, which was what this divine energy did to me. It was cleansing me of that low vibrational frequency I had carried for so long. So when I was being trained, officially trained in this, and how the body works and how we are made of energy and the chakras. I was taught about all this. So right after that, the next level was so that the cancer came obviously as a teaching tool so that I would put all these things in practices for myself and and put it in practice and actually heal myself or heal right from the cancer. I did undergo surgery in November 8th of actually I something just came into my mind right now about that date. But yes, November 8th, 2018, I underwent surgery and I had a total hysterectomy. But which took me a month and a half for recuperation here in my house, right? Alone, because I had to send my kids with their father so that I could take care of myself. I couldn't. So for a month and a half, I couldn't move from this room. And right there, I felt like they heightened the volume of of the spiritual awakening even more. And so I started having visions and more numbers and more communication and more downloads. And so, yes, about the chakras and all this. And I started to put in practice in my body, and I had already started, okay, to put in practice all this that I was receiving. So I knew that everything with my cancer was going to be all right. So by the time I had to go back to the doctor to have exams and tell me what my post-operative treatment was going to be, they did all the exams and everything, and the doctor came back to me and said, Vanessa, this is incredible. I'm happy to announce you that I cannot submit you to any treatment because I don't have any reason to submit you to chemotherapy or radiotherapy because you don't have nothing.
The cancer was gone. You were healed.
I was healed. And so he said, if you want to come and visit me and say hi, but it's not gonna be as a patient, he said. And I said, I knew it. I just knew it. So this was all being put in practice, then I was told, right? So in 2019, I have another STE that again, they told me to go to the ground. Vanessa, go to the, and in this one, I was told that I was living all this, having all this experience because the purpose was for me to go into the world, different travel and speak about this and write this book so that many other people could heal in the same way that I had so that I could teach people how to heal themselves and how the body is capable of doing this just by becoming aware that all diseases are caused by by the accumulation of our unhealed wounds, okay, and emotions. And so this was a huge revelation for me, right? I didn't feel prepared because until that moment, everything was like for me, right? I would receive all the information and I would apply that only for myself. But now I was being called to do it to help
To give
others.
it to
And
the
that was
world. Yes.
true. And the first time it was very intense because it was with a person that had cancer, 4-stage cancer. And so, and I didn't believe I knew I had to do it, right? I had to follow the instructions I was being given, but I didn't believe in myself to that I was capable of, and I was very afraid because one thing is doing it for yourself, and other is the responsibility is what I felt, the depth and the strength of that responsibility was a huge one for me, but I was being called to. And so, yes, I wrote a book.
Mhm.
And in 2020, when, the pandemic started, uh, since the book, I was doing all this with not much resources, okay? So, and plus we were under the pandemic, so uh, I just didn't know how to find someone that would edit this book or where to go. So I chose to start doing lives on my Facebook page and start
Mhm.
speaking about this.
Mhm.
And I developed also a course uh, that I gave for free to 15 people online, everything online. And I started to speak about all this spirituality and energy and how, and the body and the healing and all these types of things, right? Uh, Over on Facebook. That's how it started. And I stayed
And
there like,
what's the name of your Facebook channel?
well, the Facebook page is called the same as the YouTube. It's Evo from Evolution, Evo Life all together, Evo Life 360 altogether, 360.
Mhm.
The spiritual science of highest well-being. That's uh, our mantra, let's say. The spiritual science of highest well-being, because my experience came so that I would bridge, right? The grounding, right? The science aspects of with spiritual aspects. Uh, so physicality with spiritual, and how to the link between those two, how to bridge them together so that people could understand, right? Because when we are spiritual concepts, we've been hearing them for a long time, but if we speak to a person that has not had this type of experiences, okay, it is very difficult for them to understand them. So that's what I was told. I had to write this book and teach in a way and in a manner so that people could understand.
Where
uh, yeah,
you were
yeah,
bridging
exactly.
science and math and
I
the
was
experience.
grounding spirituality in a
Mhm.
way through science so that people can understand that they were always speaking of the same exact thing, just in a
Mhm.
different language, and so that many people can understand. And through the knowledge of energy and the language of energy, uh, teach people how all healing is possible, and healing not only our body but our life also, because the changes, my life has been totally transformed. I mean, since that day, uh, I have left everything, right? My previous career, which was not my business, and everything has changed what I do to dedicate myself to this path, because again, I know this is my purpose, right? This was the purpose of this experience for me, and I had been called. It is a calling, and it is a visceral call, that I know I cannot run away from. And still, it's not perfect for me. There's things that I still need to work on the way, right, of having my ascension processes and all that. I need to apply for myself also, and stay grounded and stay connected at the same time,
A
and
continual
not be.
process, yes.
It's a
And it
continual
is. It's a
process.
continual process for everyone. It's a continual
Yeah,
process. Yes.
it's a continual commitment that you make every single second that you choose. It's a path
Mhm.
that you choose, uh, and that I'm committed to.
Mhm.
I is 100% committed to.
So
So
this is what you're doing full time now. You're making YouTube
well,
videos on your YouTube channel, which is Evo Life 360, and then you
yes,
also do uh teachings on, or you put inspirationals more on your Facebook page,
yeah. Facebook,
which is
my
also.
Facebook page.
Mhm.
I was doing live videos there, but now
Mhm.
Facebook has changed. They don't keep them for more than a month. Yeah, before that, they would keep them, for
Mhm.
years there. So now, yeah, and I have been, again, this past year, a lot of changes for me again. Okay, that I am trying to still adapt to, and still felt a little lost in my path and what to do, my personal path. Uh, so I'm still dealing with those things, but yes, still writing. I write every single day. I write every single day. And so I post stuff, but the videos I stopped doing a year back.
Mhm.
And now I'm gaining again the the momentum, let's say, to start again, uh, redoing videos, because I do them in Spanish and I do them in English. I do them in both.
Mhm.
So doing the videos and teaching people about all this that I teach, right? And so yes, I also have people that need help. Well, I coach them privately also, and help others that need help also. I contribute in other pages,
Mhm.
Facebook pages, where NDEs, like Ian's pages and all that, where I answer questions. And just there's so much necessity in the world of understanding all this, and what truly is going on. And and so when I see somebody in distress, they're making questions that I can answer, I jump in and I collaborate with those pages, so that I can be of bring some clarity and help, hopefully.
Yes. And you just did your first collective all day event. What
Yes,
was
I
it?
just
Maybe a month ago, and it was a huge success.
yeah, I started to do, yeah, I did a workshop here in Puerto Rico, a physical workshop, yeah, where I taught, yes, it was called New Beginnings.
Mhm.
And it's all for those people that want to start again, right? On a new path, and how we can achieve that at any moment, how to do that, how to become basically a new person and start a new life, right?
Mhm.
Eh, so yes, I gave this and I'm very happy about that, and just looking
Is there
forward to
future?
have, well,
Is there
yeah,
future
yeah,
courses coming?
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I want to give
Hmm.
future work, make future workshops,
Hmm.
and I'm hopefully want to do them online also. That's what, because
Yeah.
I want to keep on public speaking, doing public speaking, also trying to do you know uh, taking the message wherever it is needed, because again, there's a lot of need in the world.
Hmm.
Eh, and as we are, as the world is undergoing a lot of changes, also big changes, significant changes. That's why a lot of people are wakening up to this path and understanding a lot of things. And those of us that were awakened earlier, well, we have to help those that are starting to awake now, so that they don't get confused and lend a hand, right? Because there's a lot of people searching and looking for answers, in their life, and if you can be of any help and support to them to bring the clarity that they need, why not, right? Why
Yeah.
not? That's what I do. So, uh, yes, I have a lot of plans, but just putting myself out there uh, for these types of conversations and public speaking, uh, yeah, as much as I can,
Yeah.
uh, doing interviews and all that,
Mhm.
because it's important.
Yes.
Again, it's important.
Yes.
And
So, we are hitting on almost an hour and a half now. So
it's,
I think we should go ahead and start closing this out. But can you tell the guests just one more time where they can find you?
well, they can find me at Evo Life 360. Evo,
Can you
that's E.
spell it? Spell it.
Yeah, that's EVOLIFE 360. The numbers, in numbers, not in letters, in numbers, all stuck together. And YouTube or Facebook, and you can go there and use. The idea of YouTube is for people to go and see the all the videos that are there, because I do have a lot of videos there, and any topic that calls the attention of the viewer, you can go there and make reference to that, and watch those, because they're there for the use of anybody in search of answers, you know.
Yes.
Eh,
And it's free. It's free information. It's just free,
yes,
freely given. Yes.
yes. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, that's basically to use the channel. I say that the channel is like a wellness, a virtual wellness center. That's the idea of the channel. That's what we want to make out of the channel.
Hmm.
That's why it's called the spirit. We have that that mantra of the spiritual science of highest well-being, because this is one science that will impact your whole life. Okay, will
Yes.
impact your whole life. It is just one science that impacts your body, your life in all its aspects.
Hmm.
So go watch. I I encourage anyone to go and watch any videos
Me
there, and
too.
I'm thankful for you guys for what you do, for putting out, just being there, right? Present every single moment and giving us the opportunity of spreading the word out.
Yes. What a
For,
perfect ending to a interview, Vanessa. You know I absolutely love you, and I love all of your content and everything that you put out, and I'm so thankful and grateful that we've got to meet each other on a more personal and
yeah,
intimate relationship. So we're going to go ahead
definitely.
and close out now. And again, thank you, Vanessa. And thank you so
So
much for the
much.
guests who are watching. If you've made
Thank
it to
you.
the
Love and light.
end, yes, if you've made it to the end, I would love, love, love to hear from you in the comments. Leave a
Yeah,
comment. Your words of encouragement mean a lot, not just to me, but especially to the guests who come on and share their deeply personal experience. These
yeah,
are real people. We are real people. I am real people, and they do read read your comments. I also read every single comment. And the best way to share, the best way to support this podcast is if you like what you see. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe to the channel and you'll get all upcoming videos. And until next time, stay curious and stay conscious. Have a wonderful rest of your night.